Julian Assange is a free man after spending 5 years in prison and 7 years in a consulate in England. Assange made it clear the only thing that he was guilty of was being a journalist. The only thing he was guilty of was writing as a journalist and performing as a journalist. And you know what? I agree with him.
I do too, and I think a lot of people have a lot of bad opinions of Julian Assange just because, of course, they were the ones who got the cables, the Podesta emails, and made them public. And sure, before that, though, it's such an interesting history of this guy. He was the hero of everyone on the left. Yeah. You couldn't turn on Free Speech TV without seeing...
we used to have a show on.
Exactly. Yeah. Without seeing Julian Assange on there. Everybody was talking about how great it is because he exposed the war machine, the killing machine of what we were doing in Iraq, in Afghanistan, killing civilians, killing reporters.
He could run for president in the United States and been elected by a landslide from the left alone.
Exactly.
The left loved this guy.
Until
the Hillary Clinton incident.
June or July of 2016, he gets the emails and sends them out, and suddenly everybody on the left hates him, and now everybody on the right loves him. So it completely flip-flopped from how it was, but it doesn't matter. If you love this guy or hate this guy, you can have your personal opinions and they can be completely wrong. But he is doing what journalists are supposed to do. You don't have to like it, you don't have to agree with it, but you have to understand this is how all of the major stories, the biggest stories in this country, end up breaking. Watergate happened because of somebody leaking the information, Mark Felt.
Panama
Papers, Pentagon Papers,
right.
All of especially what he did, this is how it works. Because they're not going to tell you, they're going to keep it secret. Journalists can't dig into that until it gets hacked or leaked or whatever.
But you hear from the deep state, Americans are too stupid. They can't process this kind of information. When you tell them that the government's been spying on them, they can't process that.
They say, I've done nothing wrong.
When you learn that Iraq was all based on a lie by Dick Cheney.
Well, Saddam Hussein was bad.
Yeah, when you learn that there were no such thing as weapons of mass destruction. When you learn that we're in Afghanistan for reasons that he exposed that nobody even thought about. When you do that as a journalist, that should be a good thing, okay? It shouldn't be something where you serve 12 years of your life running just to stay alive. And that's what they did. There were times, I swear to God, I would see a picture of him in the embassy or wherever he was. I thought he was going to die. That's how bad this guy, that's what he's been through.
Yeah.
But, 46 countries that at this meeting, that this assembly of human rights took place, said that he was absolutely a political prisoner. And it was driven by the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA. And interestingly enough, it all started when, as you say, he broke the law. He broke the law by making public those documents about the DNC and Hillary Clinton, right?
Right, and it's important to remember too, they got the documents. WikiLeaks got the documents, just like they got them in the with what they exposed in the Middle East. They didn't hack. They are not an organization that does that. They're not out there taking the material. They are basically a depository. Mm-hmm. If you have this information, put it here. Mm-hmm. We will then help you get it out and get it exposed. That's what WikiLeaks is. They're not actually the ones doing anything that could be considered illegal. They're just trying to expose it.
Yeah, when he was put in prison, it was a glorious day for Republican war hawks and blue dog Democrats who now rally around the weapons industry and rally around war and rally around everything that Democrats in the past have never stood for. I don't even recognize them. I call them blue dog Democrats. They may be more Democrats than that, but we expect that from Republicans. I've always expected that from war hawk Republicans.
Yeah.
But I've never really expected that from the Democrats, and that's the way that they've gone. Look, they went as far as creating false charges against him, rape. Do you remember that?
Yeah, in Sweden.
In Sweden, and all of a sudden the girl says, he didn't really do that.
Yeah.
He didn't really do that, but it was driven by the government. that put this girl up to saying that he raped me. They even made a damn movie about it to vilify the guy. He raped me. And then at the end of the day, she said, he really didn't.
Because it was at that point I said, okay, maybe really this guy is a bad guy.
I thought so too.
Because that's what that does to change your opinion.
Yeah.
And it was all a scam. It was a scam.
It was a damn lie.
An international scam to make this guy look worse.
Brenton, the problem that I'm seeing with the discussion on the 14th Amendment is everybody knows we have a 14th Amendment. If they made it through high school, they know we have something called the 14th Amendment. But they're not understanding how the whole birthright issue ties into that. Break it down. Explain why this is such a controversy.
Sure. So the 14th Amendment was actually one of the Civil War amendments. We call it that because after the Civil War, the legislature tried to make sure that states and private individuals couldn't take away rights and liberties like they did before the Civil War, right? Like against enslaved individuals.
Now, they were creating sandbags, walls, to where some tyrant doesn't come in and say, we're going to do the same thing again.
That's right.
Was that important?
That's right. And so one of the main one of the main reasons why they decided they needed something like this was actually what's called the Dred Scott case.
Right.
And in it, it was about an enslaved individual that was sold into slavery and then brought to a freed state where they didn't allow slavery. And he actually sued for the right to be free. And the court found that actually he was not a citizen because he was not born in the United States.
Right.
So the 14th Amendment gets created, and what it says is that in order to be a citizen, you have to be born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
Right. Okay, so it gets weird though, doesn't it? I mean, when you hear, you hear, what's this guy talking about? He's on television. He's saying the 14th Amendment doesn't have application here. Yes, we can do away with the birthright of immigrants in the United States. There's interpretation here, right?
Right. Yeah, everything is a matter of interpretation when it comes to the constitutional law. So the main way that we interpret the law is through the Supreme Court. And there's one case called Wong Kim Ark, which
pretty important case. It's
pretty important
what we call a pivotal case.
That's correct. That's correct. It is a pivotal case in which the court basically said, when looking back at history and when looking at how our law has been presented, we look at citizenship as how it is applied when individuals are born in the territory of the United States. But as part of that, they indicated that that was for individuals that were permitted in the United States.
Right.
So a lot of the argument that Trump and his supporters are making right now is that we should allow people who are born in the United States to be citizens, but not those who are not permitted.
In other words, the obstacle is you're here illegally. The Holman, you're here illegally, you broke the law, you can't come over here and have babies and say now you're a U.S. citizen. But the point that you're raising, I think, is what everybody misses. You have these extremes in the law, just like you have extremes in politics. You've got, for example, the Federalist Society. Federalist Society says every word in the Constitution should be taken just as it's spoken. There's no room. You can't move around and interpret, right?
Correct.
Then you got the other extreme that says, the Constitution is there, but it's a growing document. We have the Constitution so we can adjust according to the times. Isn't that where we are with this?
It is. It is. And, it's funny because individuals that would normally be originalists are kind of saying, we don't want that originalist idea. Because really, if you're in the United States, if we want to arrest you, you're subject to our jurisdiction. So if you're born here and we can arrest you, you're subject to our jurisdiction. So by the letter of the Constitution, the letter of the law, you would think, okay, then even children of illegal aliens would be citizens. But those who normally would say we shouldn't listen to the letter of the law now are stuck with this argument, which is saying, well, the law is ever changing. The constitutional can evolve and it can breathe. And so you have your individuals who say, we can interpret what subject to the jurisdiction means. And to us, that means people that are here illegally should not be able to have children that are citizens.
That's always the distinction between what I call the activist, creative judge and the judge who says, by God, this is the way the Constitution's written, this is the original interpretation, and this is what we're going to stick. So this is what this case is going to come down to. I mean, if it goes to the Supremes, we're going to see how do they look at this. Do we have a growing Constitution that allows us to grow with times and adjust with times? Was that pivotal decision that was reached long ago, is that something that we're going to have to stick to? Or was that just a sign of the times back then?
That's absolutely right.
Interesting way this is going to develop.